get a round of applause here. It's 2021. Oh, wait. Oh, it's a pressurized applause. I gotta hold it down. It's 2021 and we made it. First podcast, and it's June. Wait, I had a podcast. We're not even gonna talk about it. It was earlier this year, but welcome to the Altr podcast, the Altr Show. It will be transferring or transitioning into the Altr Show, just because it's just a better direction. When you have a show, you have production, you have setup, you have EP, all of that. A podcast, someone can I guess construe the words to where it's a podcast. But when you have a show, it has production value and you can add things to it and components. And basically what I want to do is I want to be able to hire people to help me with this, as opposed to just having people volunteer and like, yo, I want to help. But I want to be able to pay them. So my mindset's a little different this go around. Whereas before, I mean, it's the same thing. I want to hear different perspectives because I feel like my growth has skyrocketed because of other people's experiences and their just willing to share, and couple that with my I guess my is it motto? I don't know, but a smart man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And so I love to hear people's conversations. One of my favorite things is to ask a dad, hey, if you were my age or when you were my age, what advice would you give yourself? And so right now I'm 35. So anytime I meet an older guy and I'm like, hey, at 35, what is the advice you would give yourself? And I have a daughter, and they would be like, well, how old's your kid? And they'll give me some great nuggets of advice. And so with that, I wanted to create a space with the podcast where I can share, whatever information I get, or on top of that, where I could bring someone on and have them kind of just go through lessons and stories that they have, because I just find that we all learn, for the most part, through story. The best. I mean, we can go through like lectures, and some people are really good at that, but people I met, me personally, I learned better through story. And yeah, you can't tell me different. You can't tell me, Eddie, there's a better way for you to learn. Actually, I love music too, but I mean, a lot of the music is story in it, unless it's a freestyle. And yeah, I don't want to be bored with my hip hop takes, even though I'm gonna get into my hip hop takes. But this isn't the show for that. This is just to kind of go over what Altr Digital is and what I do. I just value people's perspectives. And I think when we get to valuing even our own, because sometimes we're like, I could never do that. Whereas if you give it time, you could do it if you really wanted to. And so for me, just me creating the space for me to grow, I think in turns helps people around me grow, because I have conversations with friends, family members, and associates who are like, so, all right, Eddie, answer this for me, or what do you think about this? They would ask me things, and those conversations, I'm like, man, that's good. I'm glad you asked me that. That's making me think about this. And so Altr Digital, I feel like, is a funnel for that, where if someone asks me a question, like if you're watching this and you ask me a question later on in the future, I'm probably going to talk about it on the show if it's really good, because I feel like a lot of conversations that are really good to me, they stick with me, and I'm able to like reach into that knowledge bag and pull it out. And I would think that they'd be okay with that, because they're sharing nuggets of information that are valuable. We kind of know that there's a a way people kind of keep information from us, because it's valuable. But I like hearing information that's valuable, but I also like sharing it. I would never hold on to information that I don't deem is valuable. Like, I can't tell them that because then they'll get one up on me. I think that people are used to doing that because you want to create a competitive advantage in the business field, which I understand. But I I don't know the business field like that, and I probably get to know that, but as of right now, I don't know it. And I think being honest in that, in that space, I think helps me. One, because people don't feel like I'm having an agenda or having like trying to create leverage in the conversation. I think that helps. But again, like the all in all of this, like we all grow differently. And so if I share something on this show that you later on you'll hear 2 years from now, you're like, oh my God, I remember when, or you someone to hear it later, then I think that's the nugget of information, the prize in itself. Because I listen to a million podcasts, not a million. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I'd say at least 4 hours out of the day I'm listening to a podcast, or a show, or a YouTube video that's informative. I think we're in the information age, and to not apply the information would be asinine. We'd be dumb if we didn't take and apply a lot of information that we get. And so for me, I'm just seeing how everyone's starting up podcasts, shows, series, narrative sequences that are explaining a lot of the troubles that are happening and how to get through them. And it's big because people have a lot of troubles and we want to figure out how to get through them. So all those videos, blogs, they're like blowing up. Well, they've been blowing up. But it's because as people, we want to be better at navigating space, and we don't like to look stupid. We like to kind of know what's going on or have just a little bit of information. I mean, how many people, before you go to the doctor, you're looking up on the WebMD, why is mine like we're looking it up. Like we want to kind of know, have a good feel, and when we're talking to the doctor, we want to be like, so I noticed my my left side, it was like a sort of a tight, and we'll say a word that we've seen online just to kind of see what the doctor's like. Oh, now I studied that or whatever, but we want to know, right? We want to know, and so in this information age, we kind of have that ability to be able to speak about something that we know. And I actually spoke to someone who's in the medical field, and they don't like that. They're like, yeah, all these people come in and they're like, so I know my aortic something something, and I'm like, oh, you guys don't like that? And he's like, no, because you guys don't know what you're talking about. You're looking things up and you're guessing, and that's not the case. And so you have like an idea of what we may or may not do, and the people are either let down or they're upset. And so I was like, I could see that, but I mean, there's information out there, so we just want to make sure that we're on top of the game, just like you are. One, because we're paying a lot of money. Two, because it's our life. But I don't know how I got down that. But Altr Digital is a funnel of, is it funnel? Conduit, probably a conduit. A conduit of stories that are amassed and like content that is created to help the next generation to help the next generation generationally. I may have to let me write that down. I don't know where I'm gonna use that, but I like that. Look, this is how I operate. If I hear something, I gotta write the shit down because then I'd forget it, and then I'd be like, all right, next generation, generationally. I don't even know if that's a word, generational. Oh, it is generationally. Ooh, look at me brainstorming out the blue. But that's how I can just sit here and talk to you. I'm just kind of, I have a good idea of what I'm talking about. It's been 6 months since I put out a podcast. But yeah, so just kind of re-look at what Altr Digital is, and it's perspectives. It's my perspective on things, but it's been warped and shaped by many perspectives. And so I like to say, oh, I've heard that, or I think about it this way. I heard it from someone. I may not remember the exact person, but I try to give credit. And a lot of people are like, yo, you shouldn't do that. You should just say that it's you. I'm like, I get it too, but I don't know. I just like not sounding like a know-it-all. Even though family, friends, pause, don't react so much. Even though in the past I come off like a know-it-all, or actually not come off. I used to act like a know-it-all. I probably still do, but I'm trying to change. I promise you. Um, I just, I realize the power in giving someone the nod, like, oh yeah, I learned that from so and so, and then later on they're like, yo, yeah, so and so told me that they learned it from you. I just know how it feels because I've heard someone like, hey, so, Bob said you showed him this and that it was worked out, and the feeling I had, I was like, oh, that's what's up. He gave me credit, so now I give credit because I was like, oh, man, he didn't have to. So and so didn't have to say that I said anything. Like, it's just, I don't know, the respect level and the honesty of it made me feel a certain way. So I'm like, I'm gonna do that from here on out. And I'm not saying I'm stealing people's things, but I'm just saying, like, I'm mindful of it now. But the way it started, obviously, oh, not obviously, it started. Altr Digital started because I went to Standing Rock and the mass, yeah, news. That's not even a word. Big media didn't cover it like how they should have. They had like a few snippets here and there, but it wasn't anything like you would think. Especially for how many people were involved. There was like, if there was 5,000 people in your city's downtown and they were camped there, that'd be big news everywhere. They're like, oh my God, day 14 of Miami being occupied. It pretty much was an occupation, like Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street, but it was in the middle of a field in North Dakota, and no one's really paying attention to it. But it got the ears of a lot of big corporations who do a lot of big business, and they realized the power of the people. And so for me, that was my first time hearing or seeing the power of the people, and being invoked emotionally to join it. But I went up there and being a part of it, it was just kind of like, wow, like we could really change some shit. And so that happened, and the media wasn't covering it like that because the big media or the big corporation, they were, they're like, hey, don't say too much about this. Like, say the news, but don't get into the riffraff about it. It's a lot of indigenous people and allies helping us, amplify our voice. And so Altr Digital was actually created to do that, to amplify the voice of the unheard. That was like my first iteration of what the brand is, and it's still there. Like I'm not taking that away, but when someone asked me like, "What do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I amplify the voice. Look, okay, man, getting in pitch mode. I amplify the voice of the unheard." They're like, "What does that mean?" A lot of people know it's like black people, but it's indigenous people for the most part. Like, we're such a small percentage of the population. When we speak about something like, oh, natives, yeah, and it's not really taken, serious for the most part. But now, I would say that if 5,000 natives showed up to your spot, people are going to make decisions. And just what I want to say, a week ago, what's today, the 15th? I don't know what day it was exactly, but the Keystone XL pipeline has been shut down, and the funders, the developers, they kind of backed out because it's been getting stopped at a whole bunch of junctions. And finally, the developers who funded it, they pulled out. They were like, hey, we can't operate because I'm pretty sure Biden, he pulled back something. I don't know exactly. I should know more, but I just wasn't as involved in this occupation as I was the Dakota Access Pipeline. But that's a win, and that's because it's a win because of it comes on the back of all the people who were fighting prior. Because I think that one was being fought before Dakota Access Pipeline, but when Dakota Access came out, or the issue came out, people just like, and they swarmed it, and it was amazing. I loved it. That was like one of the freest moments in my life where I'm just like, whoa, I quit my job. I just drove up there. I sold everything I thought I didn't need and drove up there and was just, ready to help. And it felt very, very free. I felt liberated in a society that I normally like. I don't like. Even right now, like I'm in a great area, a great space, but I'm still conscientious of things that could and couldn't happen. But when I was up there, I felt like if something happens, it's meant to happen. Like I was driven by like destiny. And right now, I'm still driven. I'm creating this, but this not as like there's a 5,000 people around me who have the same mission of like stop the pipeline. Water is life. Like that was just way more like when I was in it, I was just kind of like, like you know what I mean? Like you're just kind of like you're pumped. I'm getting pumped right now talking about it. But I met some great friends up there, and one of the friends, Thomas, he got called about uh, to kind of speak on the what was happening, and I don't think he actually spoke on it. I think he kind of let someone hear something what was going on. It was for sure a journalist, but the New York Times, they're like, "Hey, we want to interview you," and he was like, "Oh, I don't want to be interviewed." He's like, "Eddie, you want to be interviewed?" I was like, "No," because I didn't feel comfortable representing again like 5,000 people or all the tribes that are identified and even the unregistered ones in America. I was just like, oh, that's like no, 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 no. I'm like, it don't even feel right. And this is after I had got arrested. We went down this like back end thing. They said we were trespassing. It was fake. But they kind of boxed us in and they just arrested us. But when that happened, I was just like, yo, no one said anything about it. My boy, he had it on Facebook and it had like over a million views. On Twitter, it had like some 300,000 or something. But there was no coverage of it. But it's because, again, the corporations are trying to keep everything hush hush. And I was just like, you know what? I need to be able to like create or I would love for there to be some type of way for these organizations, because my boy, he worked for a um organization, wait, organizing, I think it's called organizing. Obviously, like, I don't know, I just kind of went, but he was an organizer, that's what he was. And they funded him going up there, and I met him and I kind of just became in tune with what was going on. And he's like, yeah, man, we do this all the time because there's certain corporations you got to hold accountable and governments, and it makes sense. Like everything he was telling me, I was like, oh, yeah, shit makes sense. He's like, yeah, you're not involved in Omaha? I'm like, bro, no, I was running around, doing my thing, working for a nonprofit, but I didn't know you could do this in this space. And so the creation of Altr Digital came about through that, in which I have a number of projects going on right now, and the big one is the Ancestors Initiative, and it's very dear to my heart. It's something that's going to create educational understanding for indigenous people, for indigenous youth and adults and teenagers and all of that. But I just think that the youth, it's creating a funnel of wisdom. Let's say that. So I'm really hyped about that. I'm in the first phase. I guess second phase of it. It's going pretty good though. I have 3 tribes who have signed up for it, which is amazing, and I'm really really excited about putting out more information on it. I need to get a date to where I can just launch the web page. Well, as of right now, it's kind of back end stuff. And if someone wants to reach out, you can go to my website, alterdigital.com, and there's a link for the ancestors. And pretty much you just tell me who you are and why you want to be involved, and I kind of just communicate with you from there. But as of right now, I don't have anything out specifically about it, just because I want to protect the idea, because I feel like it's really going to help my people. And a lot of people who are in the space of helping the indigenous people aren't indigenous, and so I'm mindful of that. And I just kind of want to, I want to do things the right way. But again, the show, I have it listed as podcast on the website, but it will be transitioned into the Altr Digital, or the Altr Show. I don't know if it's Altr Show. The Altr Digital. I don't know. I might have to come up with a name. But for now, it's the Altr Digital Show. I don't know, Altr Digital podcast. But it's a we're growing, right? Everyone's growing. 2021, where the cities are opening up, the world is opening back up. People are vaccinated. People aren't vaccinated, which that's their decision. And I don't think that we should force people to do anything. But the voice of the unheard, I think, is something that's very powerful to me because I come from that. Two of my cultures or ethnicities that I identify with are unheard. I'm black and I'm indigenous. So Afro indigenous, and I wanted to have a space of creating content that gets heard. And that's, understanding how ads work on social media platforms, SEO, on websites. And so within that, Altr Digital was the initial, it was a marketing sidekick for businesses. So I still do that for the most part, but as of right now, I'm in content creation mode. If someone hits me up with something that they're working on and it sounds right up my alley, I'll definitely take a look into helping them out and assisting in any way I can. But for the most part, I'm in the content creation space and not necessarily looking for clients, just because I know to be honest, the headaches that clients bring. I mean, if anyone's dealt with clients or is a client, there's a back and forth relationship, unless it's like amazing, that it gets a little tough. So, but yeah, I just kind of want to update a lot of people on where I'm at, because I ask people to hold me accountable, and they're like, "Hey man, how's the podcast going? You remember you told me to hold you accountable?" I was like, "Jesus, you're right. I haven't put out anything since January." And they're like, "Oh man, come on, Eddie, you're a great talker. All you do is talk." And I'm like, "You're right. I talk all the time." And so they're like, "Yeah, man, get it out, get it out." But yeah, so I'm gonna be a lot more, I guess, on it, because I'm back in Omaha. We were in Phoenix for the first half of the year, or the first quarter of the year, and this is where I first was recording. If you look at the other episodes, I'm like recording in the I'm recording in Phoenix in the Airbnb, which it was not an issue. Like I said, I have a mobile setup and all this, but yeah. So I'm back here, back in the Creative Morning Studio here in Omaha, which is amazing, because they offer creatives a space to kind of come create. Like if you look, if I panned around here, actually, let me pan around. Let me do something creative that creatives do. So I'm gonna pan around right here, right now. Open this up. So if I pan around, this is a whole studio, but there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? And it's to me, it's a blank canvas. I can move all these chairs, all these tables out of here, move it around how I want to set it up. Set up a backdrop. Like I can bring my backdrop stuff in here. I can do a lot of things that you can't do elsewhere. But if you're a member of Creative Mornings, you have ability and access to a schedule to schedule something. And as of right now, it's free. But you got to bring your stuff here. You got to kind of set up. And I know sometimes getting that, or actually not sometimes. I know a lot of people who are struggling to see what they can and can't do because of the pandemic. But this will be a great space for you to come and kind of create. And, shout out Creative Mornings when you get a chance. If you do use it, tag them on some stuff, because we'll reshare that. I do help with the social media stuff, the social media side. But yeah, like there's just a lot of things going on my side that I can't wait to share. And thank you guys for holding me accountable, listening. I don't know, liking my pictures, commenting. Like, I don't know exactly what to say. I know you're supposed to say, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. When you're doing your YouTubes. But this isn't a YouTube video. It will be on YouTube, but it's not a YouTube video. But a lot of things coming down the pipeline. And again, I want to thank you guys for holding me down, and just expect to see a lot more of me and hear a lot more of me, since this is a podcast also. Well, show, but it's on podcast networks. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you later. Peace.